Tuesday. I am traveling today, which is why I have a different background going on if you've been on webinars with me before. And I'm really excited to be here with you. So if we haven't met before, let me just introduce myself really fast, and then we're going to jump into a lot of learning. So if you do not already, while I'm introducing myself, go grab something to take notes, because you're going to want to take notes on today's topic. It should really, even today, any calls you have later today help you increase your conversion pretty much immediately. So you're going to want to jot down what we're talking about. So if you would, in the chat box, tell us where you're from and what you're hoping to learn today, and also what your position is in real estate. That would be awesome. My name is Krueger, and I've been a MAPS coach since 2015. And I've been doing sales since 2006. So don't try to figure out my age. It's just not important, but I have been doing this for a really long time. And my passion is really helping agents get more efficient. Can we all just agree that right now you're working a lot harder than you were even a year ago, and especially 2 and 3 years ago? It's definitely a different market. And I know from being in real estate, I know what it's like to make no money and to be worried about where the next sale is going to come from. Can anybody relate to that out there? And I also know what it's like to work on your skill and then suddenly realize, okay, I can't control everything, but I can control my skill, which helps me control my business, right? If I have my increased skill, I'm not going to have to work as hard to set appointments and then therefore have clients. So I've seen the whole pain personally of, I don't know where my next closing's coming from and I don't have enough money, to, okay, I can go to sleep at night with peace and rest, knowing I'm doing the right behaviors and my skill is where it needs to be for the market. So that's what I want to give you all today in today's quick webinar, 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and jump in. And what we're going to do today is, first, I'm going to teach you what the process is. And then, because we are demonstrating what the new program Role Play Rumbles is going to look like, I'm going to teach, and then I am going to role play with somebody. So I'll be the agent, you'll be the client. So be thinking about if you want to volunteer for that. And if so, you can put that into the chat box. You have the agent or the client role, so pretty easy. And I'll be demonstrating what we're teaching today. And then at the end, if we have time, I'll open it up for questions and I can explain a little bit more about the Role Play Rumble program. Sound good? All right, let's go ahead and jump in. So the first thing that we want to do is talk about spending 3. So go ahead and write that down. We have 3 main points today. Point number 1 is spend 3. Well, what does that mean? Well, I see some of you here that have taken the class with me, Mega Lead Conversion, and you probably know what I'm referencing. So if you want to share, go ahead and unmute yourself. What do we mean when we say spend 3? And today's topic is motivation. That's a little clue. Anybody want to guess? Kind of looking at Alexandria. Emily, go ahead.
On motivation.
Yes, there you go. You guys both said it. I recognize you all from past webinars.
Yeah.
So the idea here, if you've never taken a webinar with me, what we're talking about here is spend 3 minutes digging into their personal motivation. I want you to write that down and put a big star by it. When we talk about motivation, we're not talking about their timeline. We're not talking about a one-word answer like they want to downsize. What we're talking about is their emotional reason for why they want to move. And not everyone has one, by the way, which is, you're running into a lot of those people right now, right? Like, they're not actually motivated. But people who are motivated do typically have some sort of emotional reason for why. It could be something they're excited about. It could be something that they're, a lot of people move away from pain. So maybe the house has, maybe they just went through a divorce and the house has difficult memories, or maybe it's overwhelming in price. Maybe it's more than they can afford. So they're moving away from pain. So what I want to do is give you some questions that you can use to ask clients about their deeper motivation. And I'll say them a bit slowly so you can write them down. These are some of my favorite questions to ask right out of the gate. Are you ready to write? Okay. So the first thing would be, moving is a lot of work. What has you thinking about moving? Moving is a lot of work. What has you thinking about moving? The reason I like that question is, 1, they're not expecting a realtor to say moving is a lot of work. But 2, because I'm acknowledging that it is a lot of work, I find that people just go deeper faster. Okay. Those of you that are students that have taken class with me before, if you've seen that, tell us in the chat box. I hear a lot of people say, yeah, when I started using that question, they kind of cut through the fluff faster and just got down to the nitty gritty of why they wanted to move. And that's what we want. Okay. So the first question is, moving is a lot of work. What makes you want to move, or what has you thinking about moving? Then your follow-up questions are going to be things like, tell me more about that. So write that one down. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. You can also say, what about, and then put a blank in your notes. So what about blank is important to you? So if they said, I want to downsize, you could say, what about downsizing is important to you? And here's a key to these questions is, as you're asking the questions, use their words and their phrasing in your question. You may have heard of the definition, or I'm tongue-tied, guys. You may have heard of the words keyword backtracking. And what that is you're going to take a phrase or a word that someone just said and put it into your next sentence. So for example, you can see in the chat box there, Megan typed that in for us. Thank you. Tell me more about that. What about downsizing is important to you? Well, when you use their exact word, it helps build rapport. So it lets them know, wow, they were really listening to me. So if they say downsize, don't say, what makes you want a smaller house? Because they didn't say smaller house, they said downsize. So the key here is make sure you're using their wording. So some of the follow-up questions again are, tell me more about that. What about blank is important to you? Another really, really good motivation question is, how will blank impact you? How will blank impact you? And again, that's where you're using their word in the very next question. So how will downsizing impact you? Or how will saving money impact you? How will being on this webinar impact you? Right? Like I could actually do this with each one of you and dig into your personal motivation for why you're taking 30 minutes on a Tuesday to be here, right? Like, you don't have to answer me, but Sharon, how is being on this webinar going to impact you? What about that is important? Tell me more about that. And as you can see, this can lead into some pretty big conversation. So I'm going to demonstrate this for you in just a minute, but just make sure you get those questions written down. So you see on the slide deck, it says spend 3. That's what I mean. Spend 3 minutes digging into their personal motivation. The reason it's 3 is I've timed this over and over since 2006. I'm just a big nerd, basically. And I've timed it and I've listened to recorded calls, and it takes 3 minutes to actually get to the root of motivation. Sometimes if we're talkers, we'll spend 15 minutes. And usually that means we're not being focused, we're not being intentional, and we're probably talking about a bunch of side conversations. If it's less than 3 minutes, it usually means we think we have motivation and we really don't. How many of you have ever had a client that you thought for certain was a good lead and then they just didn't show up for the appointment? Like, where did they go? Well, that's usually a sign that we thought we had their motivation and we really didn't. And so that's why that 3 minutes is the magic number. So 3 minutes, dig into their personal motivation. So the next step here is you're going to ask 3. So that is the next slide here, if you can move forward. So there are now 3 follow-up questions that you're going to ask everyone. So think of it kind of like, I get the motivation, and then to cap that off, I'm going to ask 3 questions to really figure out, is this someone that makes sense to be talking to? The whole thing about today's webinar, when we promoted it and we advertised about it, we were talking about how to make sure you're spending time with the right people, right? You're not wasting time with people who aren't going to do anything, and you're not, missing someone who maybe actually is very seriously interested. So there are 3 follow-up questions that you're going to want to write down after you've gotten their motivation. The first one, number 1, is on a scale of 0 to 10, how motivated are you to, and then you're going to fill in their motivation. So let me say that one more time. On a scale of 0 to 10, how motivated are you to, and then, downsize so you can be closer to family, whatever it could be. So basically whatever you just uncovered in the first 3 minutes is what you're going to put at the end of that question. By the way, if as I'm going, you have any questions, please just tell me in the chat box or stop me, because if you have a question, so does someone else. Okay. All right. So again, number 1, on a scale of 0 to 10, how motivated are you to, and then fill in their personal motivation. The second question is simply, what makes it that number? Whatever number they told you. So I don't care if they say I'm a 0, or if they say I'm a 7, or I'm a 12 out of 10. You're just going to say what makes it that number. By the way, don't judge the number that they give you. So one time I was at the hospital with someone who was in a lot of pain, and the doctor said, 0 to 10, what pain level are you? And I later asked him, I was like, how does that work for you? Because what if one person would say a 5 and the next person would say a 2? Like, how does the whole scaling thing help you as a doctor? And he kind of laughed. He goes, honestly, I don't really care what number they give me. I just look at it like the baseline. And the next time I talk to them, I need to know is it higher or lower. That's it. So he said, everybody's going to label it differently. They could all have exactly the same pain feeling. And one person might say 7 and one person might say 2, depending on pain tolerance. But I just need to know, is it higher or lower the next time I ask them? So I want you to know, I've had people who have said I'm a 5. And in my mind, I was like, a 5 out of 10. I mean, what are they going to do? And then they ended up buying a house. And I've had other people who were a 9 or a 10 who just disappeared on me. So just be careful not to judge the number. Okay. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how motivated are you to move? The second question is, what makes it that number? And then the third question is, what would need to happen for you to be a 10? What would need to happen for you to be a 10? Now, if they told you they already were a 10, just say, stay a 10. So what would need to happen for you to be a 10, or what would need to happen for you to stay a 10? And here's the thing, is that question, that third one, what would need to happen for you to be a 10, is incredibly revealing. So let's say I'm talking to Megan, and Megan says, well, I would just need to know what my current house is worth and that I have enough equity to buy the next one. That's it. Well, I can actually answer that for her. So that's a good sign, right? For her to be a 10, the numbers have to make sense with equity in her next home. So let's do that. I should probably set an appointment with Megan. But maybe I talk to Robin, and Robin says, the only way I would ever be a 10 is if you could take my exact house and move it about 30 minutes north and have my whole neighborhood move with me, because I love all of my neighbors and I want to be in the same school district. That's the only way I would ever move. Okay, well, we can't do that. So either her personal motivation has to override that, or she's just not that motivated. So the reason this matters is, in today's market, we really have to help people think through for themselves, where are they on the scale? And then we have to know how to decide who we're spending time with and who we're not spending time with. And I just want you to remember, anytime that you spend time with someone who's just really not that motivated, you're not getting to the person who really needs you. How many of you have ever made a call and it maybe was the 30th time you called someone and then they finally picked up and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm glad you finally called me today. I see Sharon nodding her head. But what if you had stayed talking to someone for 45 minutes who was going nowhere? Would you have had time to call that person who was like, I'm so glad you finally called me today? Right? So you have to remember, you might want to help people and talk to people, but remember, in our industry, the people we're helping are the ones who can move. It would be kind of like the heart doctor spending time talking to people that don't have a heart issue, right? Like, he might be nice and helpful, but his best use of time and energy is with the appropriate audience, right? And I have to remind myself of that as someone who loves to talk to people on the phone, because I'm an extrovert, if you can't tell. So we have to know how to divide, okay? All right, and then there's one more step here. And this is going to be where you're going to confirm everything. So there's actually one more question I want you to write down. And basically, we're going to confirm the 3 questions I just asked. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how motivated are you? What makes it that number? And what would need to happen for you to be a 10? Now I'm going to confirm it with one last question. And that is simply this. Just write this down. So if we did, XYZ, you would be a 10? And basically, I'm just reiterating. So if Megan said, I need to know I have enough equity to buy my next house, this question would sound like, so Megan, if we figured out that you had enough equity to buy the next house, you're telling me that you would be a 10 ready to move tomorrow? Okay, great. And that basically is just making sure I really heard them and we're really, really on the same page. Okay. Does anybody need me to repeat any of those questions? Megan, thank you for putting those in the chat box for us. Megan is also a Role Play Rumble coach, so she's a great resource. Awesome. Okay, so here's what we're going to do now is I'm going to practice, and I will be the agent. I need one of you to be willing to be the client. And before you volunteer, think through a scenario. So the best role plays, let's talk about what a role play looks like, because this is role play rumbles, right? The best role play is when people come with a predetermined scenario, not I'm just coming up with an answer upon each question I'm asked. So either think through yourself when you either bought or sold a house, or maybe think through a client that you've worked with, what their story was. And really, you want to have some level of motivation so that I can demonstrate today's role play. So think through a scenario. And then I'm just going to demonstrate spending 3 minutes digging up your motivation and then going through the questions I just gave you. I am going to take notes and show them to you as we go. So I think that will be very helpful. So who would be willing to role play with me? And check in the chat box. And speak up quickly, just because we've only got about 13 more minutes and I want to give you as much as I can in the time we have. Anyone? All right, just because of time, Megan, would you be willing to role play with me? Awesome.
You got it.
All right, and just so you know, real quick, in actual role play rumbles, we don't do the whole explanation we just did. I just did that today because I want to give you a little taste of just how exactly the dialogue works. But in actual role play rumbles, we pretty much jump in and just start practicing right out of the gate. So what you're about to see is what role play rumbles does actually look like. And we're going to do that right now. So Megan, I'm going to call you. I don't know if you're a buyer or seller. You just kind of came in on the website, and I'm going to demonstrate how to dig into your personal motivation and take notes as we go. All right. So ring, ring, ring.
Hello, this is Megan.
Hey, Megan, this is Anna calling from the Haro Group, Keller Williams. Hey, I really appreciate you taking my phone call. And I'm calling because you were on our website last night, and I'm curious, what has you thinking about moving?
Oh gosh, yeah. I was just kind of looking around at houses on the website last night. I'm so surprised you called.
Yeah, we want to make sure you're well taken care of. So I wanted to reach out to you. So what has you looking at houses? You could have been shopping for vacuums or something. So what has you intrigued about houses?
Well, honestly, I just had another baby, and
Okay.
so we were thinking, like, it's not like we need more bedrooms tomorrow, but it would be kind of nice to have that extra bedroom.
Okay. And so tell me, what about an extra bedroom would help you in light of just having a baby? Like, how will that impact you?
Yeah, well, you know, I got two already in one bedroom, and we've got another room we use as a playroom. So having that other bedroom would let us keep that playroom versus converting that to a bedroom.
Okay, I gotcha. So it sounds like we're really just thinking ahead, just had another baby, which, by the way, congratulations. You're probably a little sleep deprived, I imagine.
Definitely.
And you're thinking that you want to keep the playroom, and the way to keep the playroom is to have an extra bedroom. Is that correct?
You got it.
Okay. What is important to you about keeping the playroom? Not everybody cares about that so much that they're thinking about moving. So what about that playroom is such high value to you?
I've got it. I have it set up in there. It's like we call it our calming corner, and it's a place where we do
Okay.
emotional regulation. It's like quiet, and there's all these tools in there for the kids to use. And that's been such value. I'd hate to kind of just junk that and turn it into a bedroom.
Okay. I love that, by the way. I feel like I should probably come sit in your emotional regulation corner sometimes. Okay, good. So what I'm hearing you say is you really want to keep the playroom because it sounds like it's really a place that helps with keeping the kids calm. You have some work you're doing with them on emotional regulation, things like that. And so for that reason, you're thinking it might be worth moving to have a playroom and an extra bedroom. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, awesome. I really appreciate you sharing all that. What else, if anything, is making you want to move?
That's it.
Okay, perfect. So then Megan, let me just ask you a couple questions to make sure we're on the same page. I think I might know, but I just want to be sure. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how motivated are you to move so that you can have a playroom and enough bedrooms for all of the kids?
Probably a 6.
A 6. Okay. And what makes it a 6 for you?
Like I said, it's a baby, so I'm not feeling that pressure today, but I know myself. I know that I'll be feeling that in the future. So,
Okay.
if you ask me 6 months from now, that answer would probably be different, but probably about a 6 right now.
Okay. I gotcha. And so then I think you might have just answered me, but what would need to happen for you to be a 10? Like, okay, I'm ready to move now. Let's just get it going.
Well, time is definitely maybe a pressure, but I think the thing that would make me move now would just be understanding monthly payment options.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is you are a 6 right now, and it's mostly because the baby was just born recently, but you think 6 months from now you'll feel a little more urgent about it. And what would help you be comfortable moving sooner would be understanding the monthly payments. Is that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's see what we can do to help get that figured out for you. And then we'll stop there. So, in Role Play Rumble, we may continue further with the conversation, but just for time, we'll stop it here. Thank you, Megan. I really appreciate it. So here's what I'm going to do, guys. I have a virtual background on because I'm traveling and I'm not in my office, but I'm actually going to turn it off. So don't judge. I'm in a stained glass studio. It's actually kind of cool. But I'm doing that because I want you to see my notes. So, Giselle, could you maybe stop sharing screen for a moment so that they can see me nice and big and see the notes? Can you all see the notes right here? So when you're talking with people, what you want to do, let me fix this here. I know there's a bit of a glare. Hopefully that helps. So as Megan was talking, what I was doing is I was writing down each word that she said. So remember, we said you want to use their exact word in the next question because that builds rapport. It shows that we're listening. So one hack for that is as they're talking, literally just write down each word that they're saying. And that will help you know what to put into your next question. And then each arrow represents a question that I asked. So I know that I asked her at least 3 questions over here, which is usually about right to really get into the motivation. And then over here, I wrote her notes about what number she was and all that. Don't judge my handwriting, but there it is. There's the notes. So hopefully that's helpful to you. And that's really how you do it. And that's how you dig into client motivation. And then what I would do is go through pre-qualifying Megan. And if it all made sense and I thought that there was hope for her for having enough equity and all that good stuff, I would set an appointment with her. And then that's where I would share details. And we would look at what kind of house does she want to buy and what might her house sell for and all that good stuff. Any questions on that process of the role play? Or just the steps that I gave you today? Thank you, Giselle. Y'all are quiet. I'm going to assume that just means I covered everything and you have no questions. Good. All right. So let's do this real quick. We've got about 6 minutes left. So I do want to go ahead and real quick just explain what is Role Play Rumbles. This is the first time I've done a webinar regarding Role Play Rumbles. So I think a lot of people either live or watching this recording probably have questions. So let me just explain it really quick. So I currently teach a class called Mega Lead Conversion. And that class is a 6-month program where we go into everything you need to know about how to convert leads. We give you dialogues, we give you trackers, we talk about mindset, we talk about your schedule, we talk about everything. And in that class, one of the most common questions I hear is, I can't find a role play partner, or I found a role play partner and then they didn't show up, or my role play partner is terrible. I don't think that they're actually applying themselves, and even in a Facebook group, that is literally the most common question that I've had since I started doing this in 2015. So what we have now, and I'm so excited about it, is next week, there's a new program launching called Role Play Rumbles, and it is simply role play. So again, today I gave you more instruction than we would do in an actual Role Play Rumble session. And the way it works is 3 days a week. And maybe Giselle, if you could put in the chat box the times, I don't remember off the top of my head, but 3 days a week on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you'll be logging on to a Zoom, much like this one, and you'll be with other people who are also participating in Role Play Rumbles, which means they're investing. It's $99 a month. And so they're not going to be there unless there's some level of skin in the game, right? Which is immediately going to increase the quality because they're there, you're there, and you're both paying to be there. So that automatically raises the bar. And 3 days a week, you're going to be practicing in breakout rooms with a role play partner. And what that'll look like is maybe I'm on with you, Sharon, and I'm an agent. And I'd say, hey, Sharon, I'm a listing agent. So today I really want to practice the commission conversation. Can you be opposed to my commission? Okay, great. Let's practice. And then you would give me feedback. And we even have a feedback form to make that really easy. So you know what kind of feedback to give so that it's just helpful. And then when I'm done, Sharon, you would say, you know, I'm a buyer agent and I really want to work on, for Pete's sake, just write an offer. And then I would say, okay, I will be a client who does not want to write an offer. And then you would get to practice that part. So that's going to be 3 days a week that you'll be practicing with other people in the program. And then 1 day a week, I'll come on, that'll be on Wednesdays, and I will demonstrate. So it's really helpful to hear what it is supposed to sound like, right? And so 1 day a week, I'll come on for 30 minutes and I will demonstrate what things sound like. So that way you're hearing what it sounds like, kind of like we did today. And then 3 days a week, you're also getting to practice. So I see some of you saying the scan wasn't working. So if you look in the chat box, there is a link and you'll see, in fact, I don't know if we can just put that page up on the screen, Joselle, so they can see it. If not, that's okay. But what you'll see when you go to the Role Play Rumble landing page is there are different topics. So if there are sellers, buyers, I know, Megan, you really work a lot with database and converting those leads. And then the one that I teach is lead conversion. So lead conversion is really covering everything from hello on the phone call through a signed agreement, okay? So I'm not teaching you how to do a presentation, but what I am teaching you is how to overcome objections, how to set appointments that actually show up, how do you leave a voicemail that they'll actually call you back on, things like that. And what we're going to do is really just pay attention to the market. And so I'm not going to come each week with, you know, well, we have to do it because it's week 10. So we have to talk about this topic. No, it's going to be just what's going on in the market. That's what we're going to talk about on these calls. And I'll pay attention also to what you guys are bringing as questions or concerns. Okay, so that's what that'll look like. So any questions about how Role Play Rumbles will operate? It starts next week on Tuesday, a week from today. So any questions on how that works? Or what questions maybe is the better question. Megan, anything you want to add? I know you teach Role Play Rumbles as well or coach it. So anything that I didn't say that might be helpful for them to know?
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, so many times, like, I don't know about you guys, but like you set up a role play and your partner doesn't show, or you think you've got it really dialed in and then you make that call and you kind of fumble the ball. So the vision here, you know, is that you guys will be able to have a reliable role play place to come and actually practice, where it doesn't even matter if like one person doesn't show up, because there's so many of us showing up to role play, and that'll be guided by an expert like Anna, so that, you know, you don't I can't be the only one, right, that is like, got it, nailed it, like Anna explained it so well, and then I go to do it and I'm like, oh, what was I doing again? So Anna's still there, like guiding and leading you, and that is the other benefit. So check it out, and don't hesitate, sign up. But you know, where it's like so cheap.
Yeah,
I have a question.
sure. Go ahead. Thank you, Megan.
So I'm on the website. It says sign up options, role play rumble buyers, database, lead conversion, or is it all one or?
So you pick which track you want. So what you want to do is think through, where do you feel your biggest opportunity is for improvement? So like I talked to someone on the phone last week who signed up, and he was like, I'm actually pretty good at my presentation. Like I'm really good at doing the listing presentation. Once they meet with me, they usually sign. I just can't get enough appointments. So if that's the case, then something like lead conversion would be the track. Or maybe you are strictly a seller agent and you're like, I just need to work on all the things, only seller, like seller is my thing. That's the thing I need to work on. I want the presentation, you know, I want all of it. Then that would be more the seller track. So what you want to do is just think through, what is your, honestly, your biggest vulnerability in your business right now when it comes to conversion. And then that will help you pick a track. And I'll speak to lead conversion just because that was the topic for today's promo webinar. But really, we teach you, how do you open a call so they actually stay on the phone with you? We go through things like, what do you do if they pick up and then quickly say, oh, I'm busy, can you just call me later? Like, how do you navigate that but not be annoying? I mean, just to put it bluntly. How do you relationally keep them engaged? How do you set an appointment that shows up? What do you do if they don't show up? What does that phone call sound like? What do you say when you set the appointment that will increase the likelihood that they'll sign with you? So one of the dialogues we have, 90% of people that meet with you sign when you use that dialogue. So that's really the lead conversion track. And you can see there on the page some of the other options. If you feel like you have lead conversion down, you can see some of the other options there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm excited about it. I'll finish this with this. It reminds me of, I'm taking piano lessons right now. And I go to my piano lesson and he'll demonstrate for me what the song should sound like. And that really helps me because then I know if I'm doing it right or wrong. I'll even record him playing the song as it should be. So that when I go home, I can look at that recording and know, okay, is what I'm playing what he was playing because he did it right. So am I doing it like he did? But at the same time, if I'm only listening to him play once a week and not practicing on my own, it's really just a waste of money, right? Like it's not that I won't improve at all, but I'm going to improve at a much slower pace. And that's why I need to be practicing. So I need to go to a lesson and hear how it should be. And then I need to practice. And that's how I would describe role play rumbles is one day a week, I'll demonstrate it for you, just like my piano teacher playing the song. And then 3 days a week, we have it set up for you to practice. Good. And there's more notes. If you can't see the chat box for some reason, each edition will meet once a week for instruction with a coach, and then everyone will role play those 3 days a week. How long is it? And can you move from one track to another? It's 30 minutes long, 3 days a week, and then one additional 30-minute session with the coach. And I don't know the question about can you move from one track to another? So Madeline, maybe you can answer that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to answer that. So once you are ready to move to your next section, you could either reach out to your coach or reach out to fasttrack@kw.com and we'd help you get set up into the next edition and make sure that the billing is correct so you're not charged twice. But yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? We're over time. I don't know if you can hang on, Madeline. I can hang on for another minute or two for any other questions that we have. This does launch next week. So now is the time if you have questions to go ahead and ask.
So if I decide to take it for a month or 2 months, how I mean, I have to reach out and say I'm stopping it now. I'm going to the next track, or how does it work?
Madeline? Madeline is operations behind the program, so I'm going to punt that to her.
Yes, I believe it's Rima. That is correct. So you'll take one edition for however long you need, and then when you are ready to, let's say you start with lead conversion, and then you want to move over into database and work with your METs in your database to convert those into sales, then you would reach out to us and let us know, and we would help you switch over your registration to the different edition.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Yeah, and that's pretty easy. You just email fasttrack@kw.com. And if you're in the program and have questions, just ask us. We're here. Remember, the 3 times a week that you meet to role play is moderated. And so there's always someone on the calls. So you really meet 4 times a week, once with me or whatever track you're in, the coach for that track. Lead conversion would be me once a week, and then 3 days a week moderated. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to ask questions. You can email us, anything like that. Christina says, can we cancel at any time? Madeline, how does that work? I know it's a subscription basis. I don't know what that looks like for canceling.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is no long-term commitment. It is month to month. So let's say you started this month in September, and hypothetically you want to cancel, like, let's say in December. Once we receive your cancellation, we will stop your billing, so you will not be billed again. So if you request during the month of December, you will not be billed on January 1st.
Sounds like basically after the call is made, that's it. Yeah. Good.
That's correct.
And it's subscription based. So some people, I was just talking to Deanna, she's been doing this for 2 years. You know, I know that I've heard of people that have done this very long term, and then, you know, you can cycle through. It just kind of depends on what you need. Yeah. But it's $99 a month. And I heard someone in Role Play Rumbles, I heard a testimonial. Madeline, correct me if I'm wrong, but she had only been in Role Play Rumbles a short period of time and then reported her numbers to her team for how many appointments set. And they thought she made a typo because the number was so high. And it was actually accurate. It was an accurate number. She had increased her conversion that much that her team was questioning, did you really set that many appointments? So I do believe that with investing in yourself, you'll see a big turn in your performance, that's the whole point. That's why we're here. Cool. Well, I think we're definitely over time, and I want to respect everyone's time. So if you have any other questions, you can email fasttrack, FAST track at kw.com. You could also email me, mapscoachanna@gmail.com, if it's specific to lead conversion. Give me a little bit of time to get back to you. I'm traveling today because I'm headed to a conference, but I will get back to you, or my assistant can answer on my behalf. So I hope I'll see you next week. It begins on Tuesday, September 26th. So 1 week from today is our first role play session. And then on Wednesdays, I'll hop on and I will demonstrate for you. I'm really excited. So I will see you guys hopefully next week. Have a great day.